Let's talk about rubrics. If you haven't yet, go ahead and visit the Oklahoma State Department of Education's assessment materials page and go download that 8th grade writing rubric. It'll be easier to follow along. Now the rubric has 5 categories that are being assessed in the final writing. And as you can see by the different percentages, they each hold different weights, except for those last 3 here: word choice, sentence and paragraphs, grammar usage, and mechanics. These categories only hold 15% weight of the entire grade. And as an added bonus, they're the same for 8th grade as they are for 5th grade and vice versa. So when should you start using the rubric for word choice, sentence, paragraphs, grammar usage, and mechanics? On the first day of school in 6th grade, of course, right? Since essentially they are the same for 5th and 8th grade, why not go ahead and start incorporating them into your grading practices whenever you have students doing writing in 6th grade and 7th grade, and that way they have at least those components mastered. Because they are the same for both grade levels and for all 3 writing modes that can be assessed, we're going to focus just on ideas and development and organization, unity, and coherence in order to break it up and make it more manageable, more digestible. Now the first thing you're going to want to do with your department, you're going to look at the rubric, what it says for ideas and development, and make sure you have a clear understanding of what is being assessed. So here we have it listed here. There's 4 bullet points in order to score a 4, which is the top score for narrative. And that's nice, but we also want to translate this into student-friendly terms so students are very clear on what's expected of themselves too, right? So just made a list out of some of the concepts here, going through and breaking it down. The content is appropriate for audience and purpose. So we got audience and purpose as a bullet point. That's something we need to discuss extensively with our students. A real or imagined story or experience with a narrator and characters is fully developed using descriptive details. Well, we can condense that down and say, hey, you got to have a plot. A context and point of view are clearly defined. So that really happens, the point of view happens through our narrator and characters. They really help build not only the setting, but the point of view. They help establish that when we have strong narrators and characters written in our story. And then of course, narrative techniques such as dialogue and description are used effectively to develop experiences, events, and their characters. Now it's not limited to dialogue and descriptions, but that's what we're going to kind of pinpoint that was specifically mentioned, so we should probably have dialogue included somewhere in our response, as well as all the other narrative techniques that you can incorporate, like internal and external conflict. Now let's look at organization, unity, and coherence. Same situation we got here. We have the 4 bullet points taken from the score 4 part of the narrative rubric. And it says introduction engages and orients the reader. So we have to have an introduction. Well, that's kind of a given. If you follow the basic plot line, you're going to have an introduction and a conclusion. Well-structured event sequence unfolds in a natural and logical manner and moves the reader through the story or experience. Okay, so it has to follow a timeline, essentially, or plot diagram. And a variety of transition signals shifts in time and settings and show relationships among experiences and events. Transitions has to have a natural flow of transitions and timeline incorporated in there, and of course conclusion, beginning and end. Yeah, and we can put them all together by focusing on when these occur in example literary text that we present in our classroom. So whatever they're reading at the 8th grade level or 7th grade or 6th grade, whatever's part of your school's curriculum, be sure that they're pointing out examples of this so they can imitate it in their own writing. So grading a rubric. Of course, you could give them this. That might be just fine enough, but maybe you want to add more, or maybe you want to tweak it a little bit to the needs of your students. So that's where we got to learn how to create our own rubric. And one tool to make this very easy is RubyStar. RubyStar.forteachers.org. It's a great one to just go in and you can create your own rubric from scratch, or you can take multiple elements of writing and it has some pre-developed concepts to include in your rubric, so you can build it and then tweak it based on the needs of your students, on what you need to focus, what you notice that they need to work on more. As an example, if you're looking for a rubric to create with your department, something so you can have a common rubric for grading writing vertically and horizontally in your district, you might take a gander at Edmond Public Schools rubrics page. They have rubrics for each writing mode, but they're also adjusted so they can be used not just for this 8th grade writing test, but also for 7th and 6th grade. Pretty cool. And it is very concrete. It's good for students that need something concrete to follow. I tell you, take a look at that narrative rubric. If you follow this, it will give them a checklist on what types of sentences to incorporate, what types of figurative devices to incorporate. It's great practice if you want students to move from doing very simple sentences to start slowly practicing incorporating compound sentences. This kind of gives them a nice walkthrough for that, in addition to being a rubric in itself. So take a look at that, and I think it'll provide some good guidance when creating your own school or district writing rubric.